Welcome to Season 5 of the Long-Winded One podcast. Listen as we showcase original work from top Royal Road authors read by professional voice actors. Hear interviews from your favourite lit RPG and game lit authors. Lastly, listen as the Long-Winded One tries his hand at his first ever lit RPG novel, The Four Treasures.
Excerpt of Chosen of the Endless One, written by Carson Spencer, read by Ben Kramer. Looking back, I cannot help but shake my head at my naivety when I first arrived here on Marth. However, growing up in suburban America is not the best place to help you develop the mentality necessary to survive in a world so different from Earth. Though I am a far cry from the boy who first arrived in this world, I am grateful for my past. We are all an amalgamation of our experiences, both good and bad. An excerpt from the hidden journal of Baron Amos Bickman. I hurt everywhere. The pain was a dull throb that penetrated every cell of my body. I was supposed to be dead. I remember fading into oblivion on the hospital bed. I had watched from above my body as my monitor flatlined. The light was there. It had called to me, and I answered its call. Did I go to hell? Was I to experience pain for the rest of eternity because I didn't join some religion? I opened my eyes and saw filtered light coming through some sort of brown cloth. The blanket was lightweight and prickly. As a chill ran down my body, I suddenly realized I was completely naked. I could feel a softer sheet under me, but it definitely wasn't a hospital bed. The cushioning was like a pile of straw or soft sticks. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Was I back in my body being prepared for cremation? That didn't make sense either. I tried to sit up and found that, besides the pain, my body was incredibly weak. Trying to sit up felt like I was doing tricep dips with heavy weights on my chest. As I slowly struggled to lift myself off the mat I was laying on, my head began to throb more intensely. Nevertheless, I persisted until I was at an angle where the sheet fell off my face. As I looked around, my brain had trouble processing what I saw. The shock of it caused me to collapse back on the stiff straw-filled pillow my head had been resting on. As I lay there, I tried to rationalize what I had seen. I was on a twin-sized canopy bed with the deep maroon cloth pulled back and tied with a thick rope to each corner. The walls of the room were made of stone blocks. Nothing adorned them, which made the room seem drab. A solid wooden door was on the far wall, and as I turned left, I noticed a small window with no glass in it. I saw that there was a shutter on the outside that had been left open. Nope, I'm not going to be able to rationalize all of this. Where the crap am I? As soon as I thought that, snatches of memories swirled around in my head. Memories that were not my own. I was looking through the eyes of a young man as he sat at a large dining table. The old table would seat about 10 people, but only had me and 5 others at it. The room was large, and the group's table was at the end of it. The man at the head of the table looked regal in a fine-cut outfit. He wore a plain white shirt with an open maroon jacket. On his neck, he wore a white scarf tied in a knot over his left shoulder. The 2 tails of the scarf hung down over his heart. His neatly trimmed beard, with a hint of gray, hid a strong jawline. He was huge, and not in a fat way. This guy was broad-chested and big-shouldered, a football quarterback for the NFL, the type of body women swooned over. The woman to his right looked to be his wife. She had straight, light brown hair that complemented her heart-shaped face. The orange light of a setting sun coming in from a window behind her lit it with a subtle luster that made it glow. She wore a simple yet elegant maroon dress with a high neckline collar. There was no embroidery, but a beautiful gold brooch was pinned over her heart. It looked to be in the shape of a family crest. The woman next to her had thick gray hair. The signs of age showed on the skin of her face that had just started to wrinkle. She wore solid black with the same style brooch the woman to her left wore. The only difference was that brooch was on her right breast. On the opposite side of the table was a young man who looked to be in his late teens. His hair was similar to the man at the head of the table, but his face did not show a strong jawline, and his build was not nearly as impressive. His features were similar to the woman who sat across from him. He may not have looked like his father physically, but the air of dignity mirrored the other man exactly. The outfit was identical to his father's. The only difference was that his scarf was over his right breast. To his left was the last member of the table. She had black hair like the men, but other than that, her features were nothing like the rest of the members at the table. She was beautiful, with high cheekbones and beautiful emerald eyes. The only thing that ruined it was her haughty air. She gave off such a better-than-thou attitude that it almost exuded from her pores. Her dress also showed her desire for extravagance. It was finely made with extensive embroidery. However, the beauty of the dress did not hide her round, pregnant stomach. I focused on the body I was in. I was sitting next to the older woman. I couldn't see myself, of course, but my mind provided me with the details I was looking for. My body belonged to a chubby young man who was 15 or 16. He was large, but not at all like his father. The kid must have never exercised a day in his life. His maroon jacket was tight on him, and the scarf hung behind him rather than in front, signifying that he was not the heir. He also boiled with jealousy towards his brother. Yes, this was his family. I started to gain the insight into the situation slowly. Suddenly, I found my mind flooded with lustful thoughts about his sister-in-law. Oh, I didn't need to see that. The fields did not produce well this year, the father said. Baron Aaron Bickman. Will we have enough for the taxes? His wife questioned, a look of worry in her eyes. This was Isabel. We will be fine, Lord Bickman replied firmly. The fields have lost their potency. We must create more fields south and let the current ones lie fallow. The land south is hard, and it will take more workers than we can spare, Brother Aaron II said. We could purchase more serfs. We have the money. We then have more mouths to feed, and hopefully the fields to produce enough, Father said, looking up at his son. We have enough stores until the harvest comes in, and in the winter we can put them on half rations. The older ones will die due to giving food to the younger ones. No, it is still a waste of money, Lord Bickman replied. We can get a few more years out of the older ones if we feed them. That was shocking. He wasn't worried about the lives of the people, but the money he would spend buying people just to lose some anyway. What if you enacted a no-breeding policy? That way the women would be able to work more next year, sister-in-law Martha said. Aaron II snorted, and Martha glared at him. This was obviously a marriage of convenience. We are not the Tyne barony with their large fertile lands. Our profit margins are smaller, and we need to expand. The need for workers is greater. If we stop them from breeding, not only will the men be less productive, but we will lose future manpower. You should make your serfs work harder and plant more fields, she shot back. They can only work so hard, Aaron said, getting heated. You are probably going easy on them in exchange for favors with their women, Martha grumbled. Aaron's jawbone tightened, but said nothing. Any thoughts, Amos? Lord Bickman said, interrupting the argument. I was shocked. At first I thought the father was talking to me. I tried to say something, but nothing came out. The boy whose body I possessed was roused of this thoughts of female conquest and just shook his head. I think you all have the right of it. Of course, he had an idea, but he felt it would be a dumb one that would get him ridiculed. All of his ideas ended up being stupid. So, we shared the same name. That's interesting. His father gave him a piercing look of disapproval that lasted almost 10 seconds, but felt like an hour. If I were in control of his body, I would have been sweating buckets under that gaze. Amos, however, just shrugged it off. Finally, Lord Bickman nodded and turned back to his heir. I am hesitant to do so, but I think your idea is the best. Do you have the report on the peasant villages and the mine? Aaron II nodded. Actually, the vision faded, leaving me with a splitting headache. What was that? Who were those people? I propped myself up on my elbows and noticed my body for the first time. I stared at a flabby stomach, looked at my thick fingers, it dawned on me that I was a body snatcher. What in the name of all that is holy is going on here? This has been Chosen of the Endless One, written by Carson Spencer, read by Ben Kramer. Produced for Season 5 of the Long-Winded One podcast. The author and/or any present or future publishing company retains all the rights of the associated work. This work was read by permission of the author. Hi, this is Ben Kramer. I certainly hope that you enjoyed this brief reading. I have been doing voiceover for 4-ish years at this point, with hundreds of projects under my belt. Most notably, I've been doing the 90 Degrees South podcast for several years, and another recent release for me was the Sammy Jukes Twin Lakes video game, just released on Steam. I've also had the pleasure of being with several YouTube channels, and some of the videos that I've been a part of have reached millions, if not tens of millions of views. I've also built a social media presence as the Hey Voice Actors guy, where I ask fellow voice actors questions, build the community, and help new voice actors, learn the ins and outs of the industry. And speaking of socials, if you would like to reach out to me or just learn more about me, my history, where I'm at, you can find me on Twitter at BigBenVA or just my website at benkramervo.com. Thank you, Jared, for having me on the podcast, and thank you, Carson, for letting me read your work. It was a blast.
Thank you for joining us down this Lit RPG deep dive. Please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts and visit us over at longwinded.one, where you can see past episodes and find all of our socials, even our new Discord server. We hope you enjoy.